Hello everyone, my name is TheMadScorpyon and welcome to another reset update and the launch of Act 3 of Echoes. Currently, it is going on, which of course, if you know that means the story has come out. There is allegedly a new exotic mission, but I will be covering that and the Eververse video in a separate update, because at the same time, there is new stuff in Eververse just like last act, and moving on into the week as a bulk. We did have an update that fixed a few things. Along the list, there was some issues with Solstice adjusted, where a Triumph was not allowing progress to Reveler. There was an update to Cryoclasm, so it should be working consistently again, and they added a change that made it so that the armor for Warlocks in Solstice is available in Armor Synthesis, but at the same time, we'll cover that in full towards the end of the video. The week itself, it currently has bonus Gambit ranks going out because that is one of those things that they give us to try and make us play Gambit, although I imagine Gambit is still dead. I imagine a bonus Gambit rewards would be more beneficial in getting the player base to play out Gambit. At the same time, though, we do have actually the Bright Dust gift is still going on, so if you wanted to claim your free Bright Dust, which is the 350 gift across the next few weeks, make sure to take advantage of it while you can. The current active Nightfall is the Heist Battleground Europa, which, while not inherently difficult throughout, the boss fight is a little bit hectic because it is a Heist Battleground infinite spawning ads. This one does have some overhead cover in one of the corners that allows you to avoid the Shrieker if I'm thinking of the same strike, but in the end, it is not one of the harder ones. It is a bit hard for a GM, but not one of the harder ones of the Heist Battlegrounds. The weapon available is the Shadow Price, which is a solid enough arc auto rifle. It doesn't really have anything to write home about. It is good, but it is not something that I would say meta-defining. It can exist in PvP, it can exist in PvE, but that is pretty much all I will say about it. I do think the prior rolls on it were far better than whatever new ones was allowed to return on it. The Crucible modes that we have for this week: Labs and Sparrow Control, 6v6 is Rift, 3v3 is Showdown, and then we have our usual round of Rumble. The weekly farming missions, starting off with the exotic mission, is the Avalon mission to get the Vexcalibur Void Overshield Glaive. A very solid option for endgame and just a little bit of extra survivability. I would say this is one of the glaives worth getting just because of the fact that it does have some potential in comparison to some of the other glaives that is in the exotic slot. Aside from that, though, there is, of course, I imagine, the weapons that is the Crystal Awoken set from Season of Defiance to also earn alongside it. I am not 100% certain just because I don't know. I can't get any of them as I've already had all the red borders. So, again, I'm not exactly sure. The farming raid this week is Vow of the Disciple, which per the usual means all challenges active. Its master mode is available, giving you mobility, mobility focused armor in addition, and access to any of the raid adepts, as well as raid seals that go along with it that needed the master mode itself. The dungeon this week is the Grasp of Avarice, which means you can farm it out infinite. Its master mode is once again available, and you can get good Artifice armor from this dungeon, which I desperately recommend. Just because in comparison to the other master dungeons available, this is probably the easier one to farm the final boss, and the final boss can give you literally anything, so it is a bit more of an effective farm for the long run. 4 raid challenges currently active in Salvation's Edge is the Coordinated Efforts Challenge, and while we're here, the Master Mode farm is also mobility, so if you want to farm out any of the Master Raids for armor, and you're looking for mobility, either of them are currently dropping out at an increased rate. Then moving into everything else, like I said with Vow Disciple, all challenges are active because it is the featured raid. But then for the rest, Crota's End is still bugged in not awarding a challenge mode. Root of Nightmares is Cosmic Equilibrium in the 3rd encounter. King's Fall is Devious Thievery in the War Priest encounter, I believe. Vault of Glass is Out of Its Way, which is Templar Challenge in the 4th encounter, including the start. Then for the Deepstone Crypt, it is Copies of Copies, which is Atrax Challenge. Garden of Salvation is 0 to 100, which is the Sanctified Mind Challenge, or the Minotaur. And the Last Witch is the Witch, which I'm pretty sure I said Last Witch anyway. Aside from that, though, that is pretty much the end. Lastly, touching on Dares of Eternity Expert, it is Hive, Fallen, and Ballast to Auric, aka Cabal, for the end. Moving into the rest of the week, though, we did have some more seasonal challenges, and a lot more this week as it is launch. We have the Act 3 Part 1 of A Rising Chorus, which is basically do this week's story. And then Network Transit for access the Ancillary Transit Nexus and the Exotic Mission Encore, which of course means it is available, and I will have more on that later. Research and Development 7 for completing the Research Development number 7, of course, if you don't know how, that is in the Failsafe tab for available quests. Learning Computer 3 for resetting your rank with Failsafe in the Helm twice, which is pretty easy to do. I have pretty much done it like 4 times by now, barely playing. Then we have the simulated Rock and Stone 3, which is mined and acquired Emerald and Violet Radiolite, which I imagine is new ones to find. Failsafe Cracker 3 for opening Echo chests at the end of the exotic mission Encore, so I imagine play until the end. And then Echoing Firepower 3, which is defeating combatants in the exotic mission Encore using machine guns and trace rifles. Bonus progress for using seasonal weapons. 1 chord many voices for the acquiring of the Catalyst Acquirer 1, which means I guess Master Mode is right off the bat, or just the access to it. And Red Hot Rift for defeating Vex with solar damage and Gamut or Vanguard Ops activities, really making us find the Vex in the random modes. But from there, that is pretty much everything I'm thinking of off the top of my head, because I will be, of course, going off into a variety of things. If this is as far as you're watching, I again appreciate your time. Aside from that, I will now be moving into the patch notes covered with this week's update. Going through the full update list, once again, fixed an issue where the Flamekeeper's event challenge would not count towards the completing of the Reveler title. For gameplay and investment, fixed an issue where the Cryoclasm aspect would deactivate on subsequent slides if the player sprinted after the first one. For armor, they fixed an issue where the non-glow version of 2024's Solstice Sublime Armor is not available for Warlocks for armor synthesis. If a player has not unlocked the glows, they will not be available to see the unkindled ornaments. Corrected an issue where the non-glow versions of the Solstice 2024 Sublime Armor were missing names in the armor synthesis screen once the glows were unlocked. And lastly, they fixed an issue where the Korean localization for a number of bounties, and fixed an issue where some solar and strand ability objectives were using incorrect terms for a subclass version. At this point in the video, it is the end, and if you liked anything or were informed, kept up to date, basically if I helped you in any form of way, a like and a subscribe would be greatly appreciated. It helps out the channel more than you can imagine, especially even if it's just a comment to say what you're excited for or discussions regarding Destiny as a whole. That I will see you in the next video.